Are you looking for a sign to guide you through life's uncertainties? Well, open your eyes. Stand here, not there. Sit on this, not that. Handstand. Handstand. Going up, up, up. Keep 1.5. Tut, tut, tut. Come on in. Maybe think again. Nice to see you. At 1.5. At 1.5. Handstand. Hello. Don't think so. Hello. Don't think so. Hello. Don't think so. Elbows out. Handstand. Elbows out. Handstand. Elbows out. Handstand. Elbows out. Handstand. Haven't you read these signs? What planet have you been on? Handstand. Hello. Don't think so. Hello. Don't think so. Hello. Don't think so. Elbows out. Handstand. Elbows out. Handstand. Elbows out. Handstand. Sit on knees. Not that. Sit on knees. Not that. Handstand. Handstand. Stand here. Not there. Nice to see you. At 1.5. At 1.5. Haven't you read these signs? What planet have you been on?
How's your isolation life going? Or ISO, as people in Australia like to call it. We're getting used to not being able to be close to each other like we used to, aren't we? Sporting events being shrunk to smaller crowds. People having to keep their distances. Theatre, movies, so forth, closing because we can't gather in big groups. Will we have a New Year's Eve fireworks again? Who knows? Maybe not this time round. And people are isolated from their loved ones. People who are sick are having to be sick by themselves, aren't they? They can't go and visit. They have to just do it as best they can by themselves. Mums having their babies can't have their mums with them because of fear of spreading the virus, the coronavirus. And people everywhere, grandparents can't have their grandkids come together. It's a tough time. It's really doing a lot of damage to us, isn't it, in our minds? And it reminds me of this time in ancient Israel, in the book of Leviticus, of isolation periods that was required for people who were sick. Now, when we're sick with coronavirus, there's a 14-day isolation period, isn't there? There's a 14-day stay in quarantine in a hotel or at home and wait for the test to come in. Well, in ancient Israel, if you had something wrong with your skin, say boils or sores or a bleed or something damaging to it, then it was evident that you were not well and you had to go into quarantine. Guess for how long? 14 days. That's right, 14 days you had to go into quarantine and wait for the priest to come and visit you to inspect what was going on with your skin. You know, you had, in my day it was the tech. If you're in the playground, you touch something on the ground like a dog poo or something, everyone says, you've got tech. These days it might be the cheese touch. Well, this person was unclean, unclean. You are clearly someone who is part of the human race, because people get sick who are part of the human race because they're all rebels from God, and only rebels get sick and die, not God. God, well, he lives forever. But none of us do, we get sick. And so the person in Israel had to go and show themselves to the priest. They had to go into isolation for 7 days, and the priest would come and check them out after 7 days to see how they were going, to see if anything had improved. The priest would come and say, okay, things are not getting worse, the sores are not getting bigger, they're not changing colour, so we'll give you another little while, another 7 days, and after that you can perhaps come out of isolation. And so the priest would return after inspecting that sore, that bleed or whatever it was. And if after 14 days it had gone, they could come out, back into the community, be part of society again, and be restored out of isolation. Now, Jesus, when he came, entered that same world, but he didn't just tell people to go to the priest and go and get checked out when he came across diseased hands and deformities and blindness and bleeding and leprosy and so forth. Jesus actually was the high priest. He just said, go, you're better. And the hand would be restored. Go, you are healed. And the bleed would be gone. Jesus would sometimes say, go and show yourself to the priest so that the people would know this person is okay now. They can come back into the community. But a lot of the time, he would just heal that hand, heal that problem, and restore that person so that they could return to the community straight away. So Jesus was the priest, acting to restore us. But it wasn't just people back then. Jesus came for all people of all time. He looked and he saw people in need and he had compassion. He brought them back out of isolation and into fellowship with everybody and with God again. And he did this for all people, for all time, for you and I, because he came to end the isolation between us and God. The isolation in our minds, the isolation that we cause in our actions, and the guilt we share before him as the human race. Jesus came not just as the one to declare us right, he came to pay the price. Because a person in ancient Israel who had a skin disease or an ailment that required restoration, they had to wash, shave, and offer a sacrifice. Jesus was not just the high priest declaring the person restored again, having healed them. Jesus was the one on the cross who gave up his life and became the sacrifice. The sacrifice for everyone, for all time. He looked and saw our need as God, Son, and came into the world to make us whole again, paying the price with his own body on the cross. Now, who can you and I look around to end the isolation, to end the loneliness in this difficult time? Who can we share the great news about this great high priest who has given up his life once and for all so that we can be truly friends with God and restored to his eternal community? Who can we look around and see and write a note, give a phone call, give a shout out, remember them, show that they're valued, and maybe even share with them the great high priest, Jesus. Hebrews 9:26. Take it to the word here. Once and for God has ended the war, cleared isolation out the door, kicked away the sore. 19, COVID-19, 19, COVID-19. That's right, out the door. Illumination. Are you ready for elevation and the devastation? Lifted high, elevation, illumination. Lift that out of 19. Yeah, well, here we go here from Hebrews 9:26. The one who can remove all the isolation and the devastation of our world and promises an eternity that is beautiful and perfect, who can bring us back into God's eternal community by removing the damage, removing the sins, that's right, removing the scar, the stain, that's it, removing the sins. Hebrews 9. 26. Jesus, the great eraser, comes to remove the stain once and for all. Bend the isolation, that's right. Are you ready for illumination? Eyes open for revelation. Lifted high from desolation from 1919. Shine a light, hold out your hand. Shine a light, the sinking sand. Now you too can be a friend. Share Jesus, the great high priest, the one who came to end all the devastation and isolation from God for all eternity. That's right. He's ended the war, cleared away the soul, kicked isolation out the door. That's right. Shine a light. Shine a light, hold out your hand. Shine from the sinking sand. Now you too can. Go on, be a friend. Hold out your hand in the sinking sand. Now you too can. Go on, share Jesus. Go on, be your friend. End the isolation. All right.
Hey, wait a minute. You're not there, we are. Keep it back. You're 1.5, huh? We're not healthy. We're sick. Like a shriveled hand in our hearts and our minds before God. Did God keep his 1.5? Oh, no. He came close. He reached out to us to stop the spread of evil in our hearts that will make us all dead. Now Jesus has made us clean. We can love and serve each other. So reach out. Help someone. Be a good brother, yes? Go on, let's do it. Yeah. Ciao.